Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ball Oasis show, y'all. Man. Sorry, by the way. Sorry we've been gone for a week longer than expected, especially with ball starting back. One of the most inconvenient times to miss it. So, sorry about that. I hope y'all can let us slide on that one.
Yeah.
Man, there's so much to talk about, so much to get into today, and the season has been super fun so far. A lot of close games, a lot of surprises. It's been a really fun start to the season, wouldn't you say, Jacob?
Yeah, I'll say it's been weird to me a little bit. Just different things happening, I guess. It's a lot of surprises.
Yeah, definitely. Some teams we expected to be towards the top are flirting with the very bottom. Some teams we expected to be at the very bottom, flirting towards the top. So things like that tend to happen early in the season to begin with. So most of what you'll hear today are a lot of overreactions. So take things with a grain of salt today. We might overreact a little bit, but it's just fun. It's fun to overreact and make more out of what's happened instead of, play it safe all the time. So I think I think we should kick today off with probably the biggest story in the league right now, Jacob. And that's the Los Angeles Lakers being 0-5. We're recording this on Sunday evening. The Lakers are currently playing the Denver Nuggets in their sixth game of the season. But they currently enter the night at 0-5. And before we kind of deep dive into the Lakers, I just want to give a few stats of how terrible they've been to start the season because they have been nothing short of awful. So the Lakers, in their 0-5 start in 5 games, they're shooting 24% from three as a team. That is 6% worse than the next lowest team, which is easily the largest gap in the league. They're a bottom five transition defense. They're a bottom three going into the night. Their defense in general has been what's kept them in games, honestly, but their transition defense has been abysmal. They're last in offensive rating, last in true shooting, last in free throw attempts, bottom three in turning the ball over. They're bottom three in turnovers. Just on the wrong side of so many different categories. And I think it's just safe to say, Jacob, this team is just not good. They're just not that good.
No, I think we both said that coming in that they're not deep at all. They just got LeBron and AD, and then a bunch of I won't say role players, but pieces that don't fit well, I guess. But
Yeah, there's no continuity on that team, and with a team like that that's constantly moving parts, bringing in new guys, new role players every season, you're going to have that adjustment period to begin with. But whenever you have guys whose play styles don't mesh well, also, and then you couple that with Russell Westbrook and his, abysmal start to the season as well. Of course, we don't place all the blame on Russ like some people, but he is a part of the problem. He is.
yeah,
It's just a conglomeration of things come together to make just absolute mayhem, and it's not a good recipe right now for the Lakers. They're not playing good basketball. They're not playing anywhere to near enjoyable basketball. So, and I know they got the Nuggets tonight. They've got the Pelicans in their next game. Their schedule to open up the season is not favorable at all.
no,
I could very well see them starting the season at like 5 and 15, which is a terrible record. And for a LeBron team, is crazy to think about. But it's
right.
a possibility at this point.
Yeah, like you said, the defense is really what's carrying them. I think they have the second highest defensive rating.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, the offense just looks bad. I was watching the game earlier. They're actually hitting some threes, but I don't know how well it'll keep going the rest of the game.
That's the thing too. I feel like any type of success that they have at this point is not sustainable, just because there's not one thing that they can rely on. They
Right.
have they have that defense, but their only reason why their defense is so good is because they slow the game down so much because their offense has no rhythm.
Right.
And their defense they're a solid defense, but with that coupled into it, their numbers are going to be boosted defensively for that reason. I don't believe in the recipe for that team. I don't believe they have the pieces. I think even if they go out and make a trade for like Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, I definitely think that makes them better, but
Yeah.
that doesn't solve all their problems and they're back to being a playoff contending team. There's so much that has to go right for this team for them to be in a position to compete. And there's that's it's just not possible. It's not possible.
Yeah, I've seen people try to say, they need to trade AD for a big package, but I don't see them doing that.
And what makes it all worse is they don't even have their first round pick for this upcoming season to go to the Pelicans. So
Okay.
even if they wanted to tank at this point, I know it's early, but that's kind of out of the question too, because that would go straight to the Pelicans. The
Right.
Pelicans would be more than glad to bring in Victor alongside that whole squad. They've got good nest. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enough Laker talk, Jacob. Who do you want to dive into next?
I guess we can get into Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'd say Brooklyn is the second most interesting team for negative reasons right now outside of the Lakers. Tell me
Yeah.
about Brooklyn.
Um, to me, I think they're 30th in defense, maybe 29th at least.
Gotta
They're like
say that.
they're like the very bottom, I think. To me, they don't. I know Seth Curry's injured, and Joe Harris takes his nights off, but they don't have enough scoring, I think. And I know they're dealing with injuries, but if KD and Kyrie aren't dropping 38, 39 a night, they're no. Those two is what keeps the games close, in my opinion. And I guess the elephant on that team right now is Ben Simmons. Um, of course, he hadn't played in a year and a half. Mental part of it, but his defense is not the same.
You don't think so? Outside of his defense, what's your biggest gripe with the way Ben Simmons has looked so far?
He's not aggressive enough.
Okay.
Like when he drives in, he'll pass out instead of seeking contact. And that could be from the back injury because he has grabbed his back a few times this year. We watched him play in Memphis, so you kind of tell he's grabbing his back some. Um, he is making good passes, but he's not aggressive enough for me. Like he's not trying to draw contact, seek a foul. When he drives in, he just automatically will pass. He looks to pass before he looks to score.
Yeah.
Instead of how he was in Philly, trying to get to the bucket and get get fouled, averaging 15, 17 points. But he's just not aggressive enough for me. And defense, it could be better, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because we know what he can do.
Yeah. I think that's my biggest gripe with Ben Simmons so far as well, because I saw a clip of the Pacers game. I didn't watch their game against the Pacers, but I saw a clip of where he got a steal. He got a steal.
Yeah.
He immediately, whenever he went and tracked the ball down into like the fast break or whatever, he immediately turned around and looked to pass when he had a lane where he could have went up and
Yeah.
at worst
He
gotten
could have got
fouled
fouled.
the
Yeah.
Lakers attempt.
Right.
But he immediately is looking back to pass the ball. It's like the rim doesn't exist for him. And I know his shot attempts have gone up a little bit in the last game or two. I saw him shoot 7 shot attempts, which is a solid amount for Ben Simmons in a game. It's just that he has to pose a threat.
Yeah.
And like I said coming into the season that he doesn't have to pose as a jump shot threat on the Nets team because they don't need him to do that. But man, he's got to at least be a threat to score the ball or to just look at the rim at least,
Yeah.
because as soon as he touches the ball, no one is expecting him to do anything with it besides pass and screen away or set that little curl screen wherever Kyrie or KD will come around him where he sets the screen as the passer. But I think Ben Simmons, I think defensively it will just take some time for him to get back in a real rhythm. I've seen some flashes. I've seen him do some good things so far. But of course, the foul trouble has been a problem early on. But I think that will just come with time, and I think that it's a lot of matchups that he's not used to taking. I think going from a big to a guard in such a short amount of time, with this being his first real game action in over a year,
Yeah.
I think that's had an effect on him here early on. And just the Brooklyn Nets defense in general has just been really, really bad. You can't expect Ben Simmons to do everything. You brought in Royce O'Neal to be a good perimeter defender. He hasn't really been that yet. And like you said, they don't have Seth Curry. We haven't really seen TJ Warren out on the floor yet.
Yeah.
So they still got some pieces that'll have to come back. But we knew that this wasn't going to be a defensive juggernaut. But, man, if they're going to be last in defense, I don't even think KD and Kyrie hero ball is going to cut it, because we've seen them both score over 30 points multiple times in the last week and lose games.
Yeah.
They're giving up 130 points a night. And while that might be able to beat some of the worst offensive teams in the league, like a team like Memphis, who we saw, or Man, they didn't even work against Indiana.
Yeah.
Beat them with both of those guys scoring 30 points. I put some of the blame on Steve Nash, honestly.
Yeah, I was gonna bring him up too.
Talk to me about Steve Nash. What's your thoughts right now on Steve Nash? Because I've got a few of my own as well.
I've watched a few games, but I'll say some of the adjustments, I guess, I don't really like some of them that he tries to make. And I don't like the Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton pairing at all. Because there's no spacing when they're on the court together. And defense, I mean, it could work defensively, but there's literally no spacing. Like I said, if KD and Kyrie did not play or had an off night, they're not getting over 100 points or close 110, whatever. I just don't like how some of the rotations are.
Yeah. My thing with Steve Nash as a coach right now is there's no buy-in on the defensive end. It seems like he's content to say, "Hey guys, we're gonna have a track meet tonight. Each team is gonna score 120 points.
Yeah.
You guys just need to go out and make every single shot that you can and try to give us the best chance to win." And of course, I know that's not what's happening, but that's what it seems like. It seems like there's not enough of an emphasis on team defense with that team, disciplined team defense, and they're struggling right now because of that. What's their record going into tonight, Jacob? Isn't it like 2-4, like 1-5?
1-5, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I think every game it's been over. I want to say over like 120 or 110. At least three of the games I know of. That is just basically whoever just gets the most points. It's like no defense almost.
But, yeah. That's not a winning formula. We've seen teams who have been in contention. Almost all of those teams have like a top half defense in the league at least. Yeah. So Brooklyn being an anomaly in that. Offense can only take you so far because you're not going to make all your shots every single night. You might not even make half of them most nights. So It's just not a winning formula in Brooklyn right now. And I think that they're seeing kind of those effects. I think back to something you said too, because we've heard some things come out with Kyrie Irving and some of the comments that he's made recently. Drama is there. Drama is already there. And you said that going into the season, and I kind of passed it off as like, well, I don't know. I think they're just going to be so focused on going out and hooping. But it exists right now.
I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, they had a players-only meeting, like an honest players-only meeting. So it would have been fun to be a part of that. But
they're going to be Boston.
If it continues like this, say they're 8 and 17, 19, something like that. Ooh. Just something bad. No, hold on. I'll say about like 10 and 16, somewhere around there. Do you think they try to not blow it up? Do you think they trade Kyrie or Ben?
I think that the first move on that team would be Steve Nash being fired. I think they do that before they do anything with their player personnel. But of course, we have seen Kyrie is probably likely on his way out if this team doesn't, achieve what they're trying to achieve this season. If Kyrie wants out, then Kevin Durant will probably request a trade again. Yeah. And at that point, I feel like they'd have to salvage something out of Kevin Durant by trading him away. So I think that blowing it up, I think that would come after the season. But I think that the first domino to fall would be Steve Nash being fired. And I think that that's kind of inevitable at this point, just because I don't see that there's a real direction for this team right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is a shame because they're a fun team to watch play.
They are.
Just hero ball. It's just hero ball.
Like I said, if one of those guys have an off night, it'd be hard for them to win.
Yeah. Well, let's get into our next topic, which is the MVP race. So, about 2 weeks into the season, the top guys in the MVP right now, you've got Giannis Antetokounmpo, you've got Luka Doncic, you've got Ja Morant, you've got Jason Tatum, you got DeMar DeRozan, you've got Damian Lillard. Those six are kind of the guys who have really, really stood out. I guess you could throw Donovan Mitchell in the mix now with the Cavs being 5-1 and him putting up some really big games. Maybe Pascal Siakam as well.
Yeah, I've heard some chatter with him in there.
But who out of those guys has really stood out to you so far, Jacob, that you're like, wow, like this is kind of unexpected out of this guy?
Unexpected? I don't know about unexpected, but I will say Giannis. It's expected, but we know without Chris Middleton being there, I want to say he's averaging 34, 35, around there. Still
Like
getting,
sports rebounds, yeah.
yes, still getting rebounds. I think they're 4-0 now,
5-0.
5-0 now.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's still early, but playing without Chris though, it's I'm not gonna say he's been stepping up because we expected it, but he's been playing really well. I think the pieces around him just fit really well. I feel like Brooke Lopez has been playing good. Um, besides him, I guess maybe Luca, which we expected him to be really good, but I guess he's taking it to another level this year. I feel like.
Yeah. With Giannis displaying the dominance that he has, this is why I had the Bucks as my 1 seed because of what they could be. And right now they're showing what they can be, even without Chris Middleton being on the floor.
Right.
If you're still trying to say that Giannis isn't the best player in the world, I have a hard time saying anything to you because he's that. He's that guy right now. He's the best player in the world.
Yeah.
And that team is rolling. That team looks great defensively. Offensively, Drew Holiday has really stepped it up. We've seen, like you said, Brooke Lopez and Bobby Portis, and Grayson Allen, Wesley Matthews has been really good so far. And that team is just humming right now. They look really good to start the season. And I think that that's such a close-knit group already. I think that gives them an advantage going into the season. That's why I had them as my 1 seed going in because they know each other really, really well.
Right.
And they're just a really good team. But the guy in this MVP race who's really stuck out to me so far has been Ja Morant. It's been Ja Morant, and it's really just the efficiency with what he's doing things. I think that going into tonight, he was shooting up around over 50% from 3 on 5 or 6 attempts a game, which is insane for Ja Morant because we know how much of a threat he is to drive and kick and shoot that little floater, get to the rim. We know how aggressive he is. And this was my biggest gripe with Ja Morant, his shooting, and it looks like he's really improved it. He looks like an improved shooter at the free throw line. He's just doing really good things right now. I know he missed last night with an injury in the game against Utah, but he looks really, really good to start the season, and that Grizzlies team looks like it's going to overachieve in the regular season once again, especially compared to our standards. I know you had them at 8, but I had them at 6. I think that they look like a top 4 seed in the West right now.
Yeah, I mean it's still early, but they have exceeded expectations coming in. Because the reason I had them struggling was because of the Jaren Jackson injury.
Yeah.
Because their defense has been towards the bottom of the league too.
Yeah, they have a bottom 3 defense.
But like you said, Jasmine's shooting, and that was my biggest thing with him. I think I've said it on here before. He needs a jump shot, and he's been proving me wrong this year. Just if he keeps it up, I think he's averaging close to 35, 33. He's averaging it. It's up there. Him and Desmond Bain have been really good. I've noticed here lately over the last few years they draft really well.
Yeah.
I was gonna talk about Memphis a little bit. They've been playing really well, like unselfish team ball, and they develop their guys really well.
Yeah, they've got a really good system. You just think back to, of course, Ja Morant in 2019, but they also took Brandon Clark in that draft. It was either 2019 or 2020 draft. They took Brandon Clark. They took Desmond Bain. They get who else did they grab? I mean, just in this last draft, they get Jake LaRavia, who's come in and given them some good minutes. David Roddy has played early on. Santi Aldama. Aldama has come in and shot the ball really well, and he's looked solid in this young season. Just guys who you would never expect to really do anything out on the floor. They roll them out there, and they look like solid pieces. I texted my brother a few days ago, and I told him that they're the Miami Heat of the West because we know how good Miami is at developing talent guys, kind of come out of nowhere, undrafted guys. And Memphis is kind of doing the same thing with these late first-round picks, these second-round picks, even some undrafted guys. And they've got a really good developmental system over there. And they roll those guys out, and they put confidence in them. I think that's part of it, too. They give those guys that confidence to say, hey, we trust you. Just go out there and play your game. And having a guy like Ja Morant who can take that weight off of their shoulders really makes the game a lot easier for them. So that team has looked really solid early on. They've been a joy to watch.
Yeah, I hope they keep it up.
Yeah. Talking about another team that's been a joy to watch. It's been a joy for me to watch, especially the number one seed in the Western Conference, the Portland Trailblazers. Man, who would have thought? Who would have thought the Portland Trailblazers would be the number one seed in the
I
Western
think I had them
Conference?
higher than you did.
We both have it at 9, I believe.
9?
You had
Okay.
it at 9?
Yeah. I thought
We
you
both
had
have 9 seed. And my biggest thing with Portland so far has been the way that they've won games. We've seen Damian Lillard come back. He's looked great. He looks like he hasn't missed a beat. He's been aggressive. He's facilitated, put trust in his guys. Anthony Simons and Jeremy Grant have been great in clutch moments, hitting game-winning shots. And this team is just gritty, man. I haven't expected them to be a top like half of the league defense. They're 11th in team defense right now, though. I know as of yesterday they were 11th in defense. And if this is a team that could stay in like just the middle of the pack defensively, this is a team that could really make some noise because they will be a top 10 offense under Damian Lillard. We've seen Anthony Simons. We've seen some of the hot streaks that he's got on shooting the ball. He looks like a 3-point contest champion out there, which is crazy because he's won the dunk contest as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, he hasn't shot the ball great. His numbers don't really reflect that because he's had some stinkers here early in the season. But he's gotten on those stretches. Like, he's had 2 quarters where he's made like 14 threes in just 2 quarters alone. But, I mean, just the pieces, man. Josh Hart, super gritty, best rebounding guard in the league. I'm going to continue to say it. He's that guy. He is. He's the best rebounding guard in the league. He had 16 rebounds against the Lakers. He's averaging like 10 on the season. But just Justice Winslow has come off the bench, been a great playmaker, played great defense. He has the second highest defensive rating for an individual player in the league right now.
Yeah, so you mentioned him. He's been clamping up. I want to say like the 1 through the 5 lately.
Yeah, we have a small ball lineup. We have a small ball lineup that we run at the end of the games. And Justice Winslow is the small ball 5 we saw in the first game of the season. He locked up Domantas Sabonis in the key moments of the game, which kind of led to us getting that win. We've seen him guard Anthony Davis. We've seen him guard DeAndre Ayton. Even he had some minutes against Nikola Jokic, and in that game, Nikola Jokic scored 9 points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a fun team to watch right now. They play really gritty basketball. Chauncey Billups has really got them to buy into the culture. And Shaedon Sharpe, too. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Shaedon Sharpe for a minute. He looks like the future. Him and Anthony Simons look like they could be the future of that team. And he has come in and played some great minutes. He looks like a pro for a guy who hasn't played a lick of college basketball coming in, didn't really play in the preseason or summer league. Well, he did play preseason, but he didn't play a lick of summer league, basically. He's looked so good. I've been really, really happy watching this team so far. I don't expect the success to stay. I expect them to come back down to earth a little bit. We've got a tough stretch of games coming up, a little road stretch, but this team has been really fun, man. I've been really pleased with what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I think we talked about Shaedon Sharpe earlier during the one save of the season about would he get consistent minutes, and he's gotten that so far.
Yeah, he got his first start on Friday night against the Rockets.
Yeah, we talked about their depth, and the depth has been stepping up lately. So some of the depth, and obviously it's in GP2, Gary Payton.
I expect Gary Payton II to kind of come back around the same time Damian Lillard comes back from his calf strain, which will probably be towards the end of this upcoming week. I think that's about the time that we'll see him, hopefully. But it's an exciting team to watch, man. It's an exciting team to watch right now. I've been really pleased with the number 1 seed Portland Trailblazers so far.
Yeah.
To say it.
Well, since you brought up them, I'll bring up my team.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us about Philly. I know that they started out 1-4. Tell us about the start of the season and tell us about like the last 2 games, which you've seen be a little different in these last 2 games. Where they won.
So the biggest issue is still Doc Rivers, in my opinion, the head coach. But I will say the last 2 games, he's actually looked like a good coach, in my opinion. Obviously early, Joel Embiid out of shape. I still think he's pretty out of shape. James Harden looks great. He did the first 4 or 5 games. He looked great. Been struggling the last few. It's just their chemistry. Trying to find the groove offensively and defensively. I think we're also like a bottom half defensive team, like towards the bottom of the league. just struggling on defense, miscommunication, especially early against Boston, Milwaukee, San Antonio, even.
Yeah.
But I'm still sticking to the number 1 seed. I think they're gonna figure it out. So I still think they'll do that. In these last 2 games, the rotations have been really good. Shake Milton's played. Matisse Thybulle, who's played, I think he played like 4 minutes in the first 5 games. They've been getting a lot of minutes, and it's been helping. Like our bench, the first few games, we're getting outscored like 106-30, and they've been getting over. Our bench is getting, I want to say, over 20 points the last 3 or 4 games, over 20, close to 30 points. Just the rotations have been a lot better. The ball movement, it's not been. It's my turn tonight, like how it was early. Like Joel James, Tyrese Maxey had a career game the other night against Toronto with Joel being out. 10 for 10 at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
I think he had 44 points on 97% true shooting.
That's crazy.
Which is really good. It's really good. He went off. I think they're trying to get him to be more selfish instead of just give it to James and Joel. I think Doc said, even Joel said they're trying to get him to be more selfish with the ball. But our ball movement the last 2 games against Chicago and Toronto have been really good. Even our defense, our transition defense has been a lot better. I think we're last in the league in transition defense.
That's what I was going to bring up, because through the first 5 games, Philadelphia was by far the worst transition
It was big
in the NBA.
Wide margin.
You can accredit that to just kind of I credit some of it to Joel Embiid, honestly. Joel Embiid not really getting back on defense, complaining about calls maybe. But that's a whole team thing. That's a whole team buy-in on transition defense. I've just watched highlights of the last 2 Sixer games, but you said you've seen a significant difference in that transition defense?
I have. Against Chicago, James Harden was actually in the passing lanes in the transition. Like they were getting back. And Joel was trying to get back. Instead of kind of just walking down the court, complaining about a call, he was actually trying to get back and play defense.
Yep.
But the ball movement is my biggest thing, and a whole lot better rotations. But their ball movement, instead of just ISO the whole time or feed it to the post, they've been moving it around really well. Like a very unselfish team the last few games.
Yeah. I'm not worried about the 76ers. I think that they had a tough stretch of games early on. Sure, they lost to the Spurs, but the Spurs have been beating some solid teams early on.
They won against the Timberwolves again.
For the second time already this season.
Yeah.
Beat the Timberwolves. And, yeah, I'm not worried about the 76ers. I think that they'll continue to gel and mesh and figure out roles. And I think they'll be okay. I don't know if they'll be the 1 seed, especially with how the Bucks have looked so far. I'm sticking to my guns on that one.
Yeah.
But the Sixers will be a solid team. They'll be there. They'll be there come postseason time.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the 1 seed. I think once they figure it out, it'll be really good.
Yeah. Let me bring up some teams to you, Jacob, who have kind of surprised so far. Just brought up the San Antonio Spurs, Jacob. How much of the Spurs have you watched here early on?
I've actually watched, I want to say 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
I think I watched some of both the Minnesota games, our game, and who else have they played? I'll say 3 games at least.
Yeah. The Spurs, if you didn't know, are 5-2 right now. They're off to a 5-2 start. They are currently the 3 seed in the Western Conference. Do we expect it to be sustainable? Me, anyways? No. I don't think the Spurs will continue this pace. But they've looked like a solid team so far. They've shot the ball really well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I want to lead the league in assists as a team.
Yeah.
So they very unselfish team. It's like not a star player trying to do everything. They're very unselfish.
Yeah, they've been shooting the ball really well. Guys like Keldon Johnson, I know he had 25 points today. You have Devin Vassell, who has shown some flashes here early on. I thought about putting him in my most improved as a most improved player candidate. Probably should have, because he's put up some really good numbers early on and worked really good. Just even their role players. I mean, they've just got solid guys off their bench like Doug McDermott, who's a sniper, and Josh Richardson, who we know has played in some big games. They've got some players who are capable of that, but we didn't expect that, of course. We expected the Spurs to come out and be one of the worst teams in the league. And like I said, I think they'll have a fall from grace. I think that they'll go on a little losing stretch, but to be 5-2 here early on is impressive, especially with some of the teams they beat, like we said, beating the 76ers, beating the Minnesota Timberwolves twice in the young season. It's been a really impressive start for the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, I agree. They I guess any pop coach team is going to be not be terrible. I guess really bad.
Yeah. And kind of along the same lines as the San Antonio Spurs, we have the Utah Jazz, who are 5-2 as well. And my thing with the Utah Jazz is they're just too decent. They're too decent with the players that they still have.
Yeah.
Jordan Clarkson is gonna get you 20+ points a night. Mike Conley is capable of getting you 20+ points a night. You've got Colin Sexton off your bench, who's gonna get you 20+ points almost every night. You've got Larry Markkinen, who's playing like the most improved player right now.
Yeah,
He's
I
probably
agree.
the front runner.
He's
Averaging like 23, 24 points on great efficiency. Kelly Olynyk. Me and you have kind of a meme right now about Kelly Olynyk, the Kelly Olynyk effect on the Utah Jazz. He's been great for that team. They've just been shooting the ball well. They've been locked in on the defensive end, and they've beat some good teams too. They beat the Denver Nuggets. They beat the Memphis Grizzlies last night. They've I think they beat the Timberwolves as well. This is a solid team right now, and for them to be kind of in what we think as tank mode, I kind of believe that this is a team that could compete for the play-in if they wanted to, especially with this start that they're on.
I agree with that. They could definitely be a play-in team if they actually try to.
I don't think that they should try to do that, but because I still think that Jordan Clarkson will get traded. I think Mike Conley will get traded, but they're just too decent. They're better than the Sacramento Kings right now. They look better than the Sacramento Kings, which is kind of sad to say. Sacramento Kings have not looked very good. Their defense is down there. They're like the bottom 3.
Yeah.
But Utah's guys, they look good. Will Hardy has been a good coach here early on in his first real season as head coach. He's looked really good. But the Jazz are the current, I guess they're tied for third in the West with the San Antonio Spurs right now. But they've been a solid team. They've been fun to watch too.
Yeah, I'll say that's like another unselfish team. They spread the ball out pretty well during the games. And like I said, the Kelly Olynyk effect, he had a game winner against New Orleans, and that was it was hard for me to watch because I was watching that game. But he's been playing pretty well here first few weeks.
Yeah, that whole Jazz team is kind of on a tear right now.
Yeah.
I guess kind of with these surprises, I guess we should go to the bottom of that spectrum as well. We talked about the Lakers and we talked about the Nets already. Well, we'll talk about one more team at the top. Let's talk about one more team. Let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers are now 5-1 on the season. We saw them with a big win against Boston the other night where Donovan Mitchell and Caris LeVert both scored 41 points in an overtime win. And tonight, Donovan Mitchell comes out and scores 38 points, 12 assists, great shooting. Who'd they play tonight?
New York, the Knicks.
The Knicks, that's right. The Cavs are 5-1, even without Darius Garland, who's been out with an eye injury. They look really good. They look like a really good team.
So I was high on them early in the season, or right before the season. I still think they could make a deep playoff run. Maybe. I know it's built for the future, but I know it's early. But they've been playing really well. I think Donovan Mitchell gets the most minutes per game at like 39 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they're doing this with Darius Garland out. But Kevin Love, I think off the bench has been really good.
Yeah, he had like 26 points tonight.
Yeah, I want to say he had 5 or 6 threes.
He had 7.
Seven tonight. They've been playing really well, I think.
Yeah, that's been another team who's been really fun to watch. We've seen, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen do their thing on the defensive end.
Yep.
And those guards, I think that that Garland Mitchell backcourt might be the best in the league right now. I think it might be. Do you think that there's any backcourt that could really contend with that right now? I can only think of like 2 or 3 that even are in the same realm.
Do you have Atlanta up there?
Yeah, Atlanta's one of them with Murray and Trae Young. They've looked solid so far.
Maybe Trae and Murray, maybe Ja and Bane.
I was thinking, even so far here in the early season, I was thinking that D'Lo and Anthony Edwards would be in that echelon because D'Lo has looked really, really good.
Yeah, he's looked really good. Yeah, and Ant's had his I think he had one awful game, I'll say, but he's been looking pretty good. So it's not me. I probably have him to top 3 at least. I mean, top 3 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could throw Lillard and Simons in there too, but that's just me. they've been solid as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Cavs have been really good. I believe in them. I think that they'll keep it up. I think that they'll be a great team in the regular season. Potentially a top 4 seed, especially with Miami kind of struggling early on. With
Yeah.
Toronto losing some games, they might be able to do it.
I think I had them at 4. I think I had them at 4. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
you had them at 4. I had them at 5. I had Miami above them.
Yeah.
Talking about some of these biggest surprises on the lower end scale, let's talk about Miami, because Miami right now is 2-5. They lost to the Kings last night. They lost to the Warriors on Thursday night. Who else did they lose to? That was kind of a bad loss.
They've lost to Toronto.
They did lose to Toronto.
I think the Warriors twice.
They lost to somebody else. They lost to Boston.
Boston. It was one more. No, that might be it.
Yeah, but they haven't looked great. They haven't looked great to start the season. Tyler Hero has done his thing. Tyler Hero he shot the ball really well, but it's weird because defensively they haven't looked great, and I think a lot of that is due to their interior, their interior defensive depth. You know, Bam Adebayo is going to do his thing, but they're running Caleb Martin at the 4 right now.
Yeah.
And outside of Bam, you know, they're bringing in Dwayne Dedmon and Haywood Highsmith and Nikola Jovic, the rookie, to come in and play those big those minutes that where Bam is not on the floor. And those are minutes where Miami gets severely killed on the inside. So they've got some issues to address right now. They don't look great. I don't think Jimmy Butler has really played great yet.
Yeah.
I think he still can really do that. And they still have some pieces out. They've got Victor Oladipo out. They've got Omer Yurtseven out who can come in and provide them with some depth at least. But I expect them to be buyers come trade deadline, especially for a big. I think they should get in on the Miles Turner sweepstakes.
I wouldn't be mad at it. I can see it. I can see them. They should.
They just need help inside. That's really the biggest gripe with Miami. They've played some good teams early on, but they just don't look great. They don't look like the 4 seed where I predicted them to be, the 5 seed where you predicted them to be.
Yeah. Like I said, Jimmy could play better. I mean, he's had, 27 few times, but he could play better. Kyle Lowry, too. He's been struggling.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry has not been great. He had one big game against Portland. That was it.
Yeah, he's been struggling. So I could see them trying to get a point guard, but I don't know how that would work. Like, would they have to trade Lowry or what? But I could see them trying.
It's gotten so bad. We talk about the Heat. We talk about the Lakers too. Laker fans are wanting a Russell Westbrook for Kyle Lowry swap at this point.
I think I've seen the Heat want Russell Westbrook too. Like Heat fans want Westbrook.
It's crazy to think about.
But
crazy. But yeah, the Heat have not looked good. Who else hasn't looked good? Who is just on my mind? Oh, the Clippers. The Clippers have not looked good early in the season.
Lost third, I think.
Yeah, they gave up a big lead last night to the Thunder. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Isaiah Joe did
that was Dallas, I think.
Oh, Dallas. That was Dallas. You're right. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did his thing in the fourth quarter of that game last night. 38 points, 9 assists. Or am I thinking about the Dallas game?
That's the Dallas game.
It was.
Because they were down. They were down like 17 with 2 minutes left, or 4 minutes.
I know they beat the Clippers as well, though.
Yeah, they beat the Clippers. I think twice. I could be wrong.
Which is crazy to think about. But yeah, the Clippers have lost some games early on. They're 29th currently in offensive rating, with only their crosstown rivals, the Lakers, being worse.
Yeah.
And we know that they've missed Kawhi early on. Kawhi, even when he was playing, he was coming off the bench. Paul George hasn't looked great outside of a game or two. And I don't know. They look a little iffy here early on. And I kind of expected it. I had them at the 7 seed in my preseason rankings. And I just didn't expect them to come out and be super stellar with guys who have missed so much time and with some moving pieces. But I expected them to look better than this. They do not look very good right now.
Yeah, we talked about their depth being good, but I think their defense isn't that good either. I want to say it's towards the bottom, but I don't know if they're trying to figure it out with everybody there or what. But they have been struggling. That's been a surprise to me too.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say about the Clippers other than that they haven't looked good. I think that they're a team though that can get hot and get on a run.
Yeah.
But I still have good belief in the Clippers. I think that they'll get hot at the right time. But right now, they don't look good. That's just kind of what it is.
Yeah, I agree. And
Wait, continue saying what you're saying.
I'll say I agree. I've watched 2 of their games and they have leads. I think today they had a lead against New Orleans and then New Orleans kind of just took it away in like second half.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They probably might just have to get used to it. But you can go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah. I think we should finish off today's episode with a player or two who's really stood out to us so far. Jacob, who's been a player who's really stood out to you so far to start the season?
I'll say Benedict Mathurin.
The rookie.
Yep. He's making noise for Rookie of the Year so far, I think. I've watched him a few times. Obviously we played him. And I want to say a few more games, but he's getting like 33, 34 a night almost. Not averaging, but he'll have 33 and 34, then maybe like 20. Him and Paolo, I know Paolo's getting 20 plus every night, but I think he could move up there for Rookie of the Year. He's been playing really well. I think he fits well with Tyrese Halliburton, or really just the Pacers rebuilding. He gets a lot of I guess on ball touches.
Mm-hmm.
So he's stood out to me this year. I want to say he's been his stats, I guess. His stats have been really good. Like looking at some scores and stuff, points, rebounds, assists, like it's all there, I think.
Yeah.
But he's
I like how fast the Pacers have played early on. I like how Tyrese has really initiated that offense and put that confidence into Benedict Mathurin.
Right.
He's looked really great as well. I think he shot the ball really well. I think he's been really aggressive and just playing his game. He has the freedom to play his game. No real expectations on him coming in. Didn't really have any buzz for Rookie of the Year or anything. He's just going out and hooping right now and really playing to his highest level, it seems like, especially early on in his young career. And like you said, he's looked really, really great.
Yeah.
But my guy who I wanted to mention, and me and you have talked about this guy a little bit over the past week or so, is Dennis Smith Jr.
Yeah.
Dennis Smith Jr. has kind of revived his career in a week and a half on the bench in Charlotte. He's a North Carolina guy. He's from North Carolina. But Dennis Smith Jr., the way that he's shooting the ball right now is unreal. He was a Portland Trailblazer last season, and he wasn't even attempting a shot outside of like 18, 19 feet. He had to be within that range to even look at the rim. But he is firing on all cylinders right now. He's shooting like over 60% from three on like 3 attempts a game, which is insane to think about for Dennis Smith Jr. He's dishing the ball really well. He's averaging like 8 or 9 assists. We saw him last night in that game against the Warriors. He had some really big defensive possessions against Steph Curry, which forced that game to go into overtime, which ultimately the Hornets ended up winning.
Yeah.
It's so weird to see Dennis Smith Jr. just kind of revive his career in a week and a half. It kind of reminds me of Cam Payne this season where the Suns went to the finals because Cam Payne had been seen as an outcast years before on teams like the Thunder and the Bulls, and he steps into this role where he's really, really firing on all cylinders. And Dennis Smith Jr. is kind of doing the same things right now.
Yeah.
On a Hornets team, of course, that's not good at all. That team is really, really bad. But he's been really fun to watch so far in this young season.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it to you like I want to say early in the summer or like halfway through the summer about either not Philly picking him up, but somebody picking him up. And you said it kind of wouldn't, or we both said it might not help a team as much.
Yeah.
And we were totally wrong about that. But I think he's averaging, what, 17 points or 12 or 17?
It's like 13, 14 points a game, and he's averaging up around 8 assists. He's shooting really, really efficiently right now. And he's locking in on the defensive end, too. One of the few guys on that Charlotte Hornets team who locks in on the defensive end.
Yeah, he's been really impressive because he was basically out of the league last year, maybe. How long?
Yeah, we cut him in February of last season.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't think I figured he'd get picked up by a team, but I didn't think he'd be having this big of an impact.
Yeah. Props to Dennis Smith Jr., man. He's back home and he's doing big things for the Hornets. He's kind of like Benedict Mathurin too, where there's really no pressure for him to really come in and be anything super specific. They're just rolling the ball out and saying, "Hey, Dennis Smith Jr., go play your game," and he's really benefited from that. And I think that he's really, really relished being in that role.
Yeah, I'm glad to see him succeed.
Yeah. Anybody else you want to talk about before we close today, Jacob?
Not that I know of. I know I've mentioned Sadiq Bey to you a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he had 28 tonight. I think he could be a sneaky pick for MIP maybe. He struggled some, but other than that, I don't think anybody stuck out to me.
Yeah, other than that, I mean, there's some small things, but I think we can cover those as they come along, as stories continue to progress next week. But I think we've covered most of the basis of the start to the season, most of the main stories, and I expect things to look different even this next week. You know, we've got players coming back from injury. We've got Zion who came back from injury today, he looked pretty good in his return. Dame will be back from injury towards the end of this week. Darius Garland will come back from injury, so should be a lot to talk about within this next week. Hopefully, the Lakers can get their first win sometime. Maybe the Nets look better. We'll just see how things play out. We're so excited to have basketball back, though, and actually to have some things to talk about like this, because this is what we've been waiting for this season. It's really delivered so far. It's been really fun to watch.
Yeah, the Lakers are up 7 with 3 minutes left.
Looks like they're going to get their first win if they don't choke it, which would be a Laker thing to do.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, we'll see y'all next week.
See y'all.
Peace out.